So let me invite up here Firth-Butterfield, who is CEO of Good Tech Advisory, spent 7 years as head of AI at the World Economic Forum, and had her I first came to the World Economic Forum in the last millennium. But Kay first came in 2017, and her first interview was on a panel with me. So I'm really glad to be reunited with you here. Maybe you could start by telling us a little bit about what the Good Tech Advisory is and does.
Yeah, certainly. So I was the world's first Chief AI Ethics Officer in 2010. Not only does that give my age away, but it also means that, I have been trying to work on helping companies and countries create responsible AI as a foundation of everything that goes above it, all those use cases, for 10 years now. And in fact, just now, this last year, everybody started to listen to me. And a lot of the conversations that we're having is around responsible AI, governance, regulation that's about to hit us. So what do? We educate, we do thought leadership, and we help companies and countries to do those things.
Yeah, so let's start with the big question, because I agree with you. Everyone is talking about safe AI, responsible AI, good AI, but I'm not sure everybody agrees on what it means. What is it? What is good AI? What is safe AI? What is responsible AI?
Yeah, well, I think that it depends where you live in the world. Obviously in Europe, we're going to have the AI Act very soon, and so we're going to be seeing that playing out across Europe. If we live in America, we've got the Biden EO and the NIST framework, but interestingly, a lot of the states have actually picked up some of the things from the EU AI Act, and what we're seeing in America is this complete patchwork. Almost every state has some regulation about AI, which is a different approach. And of course, we don't have that federal mandate, but we do have all the regulators doing something separately. And then, for example, if you live in Brazil, there's going to be legislation around AI in Brazil. India's not there yet. Japan is, but has very loose copyright jurisdictions. So, maybe we'll see companies who want to use copyrighted work moving to Japan, or at least using that jurisdictional benefit.
So I moderated a conversation at 7 a.m. this morning, and by the way, where else do you have panel conversations at 7 o'clock in the morning? I mean, who does that? And it takes 30 minutes to get there. So, but about on this topic, but I think one of the things that I'd love for you to go into a little more, there was a clear frustration of many of the companies in the room that there's kind of this, on the one hand, there's this incredible pressure from the CEO to adopt this technology. It's going to transform the company. We need to get on it. We need to get on it quickly. And it's going to have huge productivity gains. And then the general counsel and the people watching the regulators is saying, hold on, hold back. Look at the EU AI Act. Look at what's happening in the States, and the people who are developing the technology are feeling very much pulled in opposite directions. How do you reconcile that?
Okay, so this time last year, I was on a panel at the forum with Brad Smith. What we were talking about is that this is a whole C-suite thing for the C-suite to engage in. It's sort of team sport. And the CEO really needs to have responsible AI and an understanding of where they're going together with the whole C-suite. So what we would say is, board, does your board understand AI? If your board doesn't understand AI, it can't help you with governance. And frankly, many boards have no clue. Then the whole of the C-suite needs to be involved, so it doesn't turn out to be the chief technology officer or the chief, the CIO or the CAIO against the general counsel, because that's not going to work out. That's not going to create good governance within your company, and you're going to end up with those push me, pull you things. So if you don't want
It's
to
pretty good. If I can just say, it's pretty clear to me that at most companies, what you're saying should happen has not yet happened.
Absolutely. No, it hasn't, and that's some of the work that I do. And if you don't want to do that, you create a smaller working group. And we've seen real success in companies where they've nominated several C-suite executives to be on that smaller working group to define how they want to use AI and how they want to go forwards. But really what we're talking about, is just good product design. In the past, if you had wanted to market something, say, I don't know, clothes to an old white woman, you would have gone and done some market research and you would have created a product that I wanted to buy. We've seemed to have forgotten that that's the way to create AI, and that therefore, if we're thinking about diversity, you don't just want a group of young men under 30 doing the coding, you actually want to create a diverse team around them.
So there's another issue here that I'd love to ask you about that I've noticed in the last couple of days. I mean, the notion of safe AI shouldn't be a subject of debate. It should be something that we all agree on. I agree with you, it's being talked about more here, but it's often being talked about by companies that want to make it a comparative advantage. Come to us because we're safe and the guy across the street isn't. How do we get this done in a collaborative way so there's a baseline that everybody agrees this is what you must do to get this right?
Well, I think it's sectoral. If you're in healthcare, some of your problems are going to be much bigger than if you're in mining and mining. And so it's sectoral. I think that you need to create your own principles, but there are hundreds of examples out there. And then put those principles into practice, but there are hundreds of examples of practice out there. So, whereas when I first started, there was nothing, now there is actually a real body of knowledge developed around here. So you can go to the OECD, you can go to the NIST framework. There are lots of different things available to the whole company, but you have to make it fit for you. And just as an anecdote, I do a lot of work with hospitals in the US, and they have a big problem with their ER doctors using ChatGPT to check their diagnosis because they're very busy people. But that might not be the very best thing, and if ChatGPT gets it wrong, who's responsible? And trying to get them to think, well, did you write a policy about use of ChatGPT? And often finding that they hadn't.
The hospital had no policy.
Had no policy.
If companies don't get on this and get on it quickly, there is no question the regulators will, as you've already said. What are the odds the regulators get it right?
Well, it's really interesting because, in America, we all look at the EU and we say, despite my accent, I live in America, we will look at the EU and say, oh, this regulation is really interesting and it's going to be world leading, just like GDPR. And then at the meetings that I've been having today with the Europeans, they're all saying, oh no, it's not, please let's not have this. We think that what's going on in the US, where existing law is being used and the regulators are using existing powers. And just as an example of that, for example, we're seeing stakeholder activism around responsible AI now.
Interesting.
So
companies are feeling pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I assume this is what you're doing at Good Tech Advisory, but it just makes sense that if companies can do a better job self-regulating, it may help prevent some of the worst excesses of overregulation.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what needs to happen? What needs to happen here to make progress on this issue?
Well, I think that self-regulation is really important because it not only will make sure that you don't fall foul of the regulators, for example, if you work in the States, and I think it will also help with the existing case law. There is, we were talking about diversity, if you discriminate, there are laws everywhere that you can be sued through, and it's you thinking, okay, I have used my AI and that is discriminated. So again, who's going to be sued? And what we're seeing in America time and time again is that it's the company that's using the AI that they bought that is sued, and then questioned, can you sue the person that you bought the AI from? And so procurement, really thinking carefully about procurement of AI and having really, really good processes in place for procurement is going to be key.
Fascinating, and a little bit of a nightmare. But Kate, thank you very much for those comments to get us started. We can get back into this in the table conversation. I don't know if all of you know, this is a working dinner. You are expected to participate in the conversation. We will be going around the table and want to hear from all of you, but thank you for getting us started. Thanks again, Ravi, for your support for this dinner and this important conversation. I'm sure you'll have more to say at the table as well. Let me tell you one thing. What Kay said is on the record. We're going to hold her responsible and accountable. But what you say around the table is Chatham House rule. No one will report specific quotes to you or use your name. So with that, why don't we take our seats and continue the conversation?